ministro de Educación y Cultura de Indonesia para estudiar un año en Indonesia, también para estudiar cultura, idioma, allá en Indonesia, y lo va a presentar mi jefa, que es la canciller y también la jefa del asunto cultural de la embajada, señorita Angrini Widiastuti.
Okay. Ah. Okay.
We are in the Rosario Castellanos auditorium. Should we have to evacuate this hall, we must do so in an organized and serene manner. We should proceed as follows. The people who are sitting from the first to the fifth rows must evacuate through the emergency exit located to the right of this auditorium. The people sitting from the sixth to the 10th row must evacuate through the main door. Once outside the building, we must keep going to the meeting point located right in the middle of the parking lot between this building and the seat of the architecture school. If someone cannot move quickly and easily, they must relocate themselves close to the columns, which are indicated as low-risk spots. Please follow the instructions of the brigadiers at all times. Thank you for listening.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angga. I'm from the Indonesian Embassy in Mexico City. For today, I will be presenting Indonesian scholarship program. But before that, I would like to just explain to you a little bit about Indonesia. Thank you very much for coming to this event. I'm happy to see all of you here, and I hope you, through this presentation, you will know more about Indonesia. So let's start with my presentation. Do you know where Indonesia is? Yes? Well, Indonesia is actually quite far from Mexico. It's around 15,000 kilometers from Mexico. It's in the Southeast Asia, above Australia, if you know, and under Japan or China. If you want to go to Indonesia, I think you need at least 21 hours by plane. So it's pretty far. So Indonesia is an archipelagic country, so we have many islands. It actually consists of 17,500 islands, but big islands are around, I think, 7. We have 38 provinces and more than 300 ethnic groups. We are the 4th most populous country in the world after China, India, and US. We have around 276 million population. We are, of course, a tropical country. We only have 2 seasons, dry and wet seasons, with temperature around 25 to 32 degrees. And we also acknowledge 6 religions, but more than 90% of Indonesians are Muslims. Regarding ethnicity, as I mentioned before, we have 38 provinces and more than 300 ethnic groups. Some of Indonesian remote regions still preserve uniquely indigenous culture. As for the traditional dances, we have a lot of traditional dances because we have a lot of ethnics and cultures. maybe you know about Bali Island. Well, if you know about Bali Island, then you know it is famous for tourism spot and also its culture, because it's most of the population in Bali is Hindu, and they have many traditional culture related to Hindu, and also dances, very beautiful and dynamic dances. And of course, we also have a lot of music instruments. The well-known ones are angklung, the above picture. It is an image of angklung. It is it's made of bamboo, and we also have a gamelan on the right corner. It is actually mostly used to accompany dance from Java. And we also have theaters. The most well-known from Indonesia is actually the wayang puppet. It's a puppet made of leather. Yeah, it is made of skin cow. So we also have textiles. I think some of the motifs are actually similar to Mexican motifs. And if you mention about food, we also use a lot of avocados. But in Indonesia, it's different from Mexico. We use avocado to make juice, avocado juice. And I don't think we have here in Mexico, because they usually, in Mexico, I think you use it for condiments, guacamole. Yeah, and also we have fruit, what do you call it? Fruit. Fruit salad. We usually eat fruits with chilies. Yeah, with chilies and palm sugar. Whereas in Mexico, I think you only use chili. Chamoy? What is chamoy? It's a salsa. Okay. Yeah, and then we have here lentejas, but in Indonesia we have like green bean porridge. Of course, we also have similarities with Mexico. For example, Indonesian people really likes sambal or chili. You also eat salsa, but I think it's a little bit different texture, and I think Indonesian salsa is yeah, spicier than in Mexico. We also have this mijiotes de pollo. Yeah, similar to Indonesian chicken peppers, and also the mole de olla. I think it's pretty similar. Okay. Yep. And then as you know, Indonesia has a lot of islands. We have beautiful beaches and sceneries. This year, I think since last year, the government are promoting 5 priorities for tourism destinations. The number 1 is Borobudur Temple. It's a temple, I think it's a Buddhist temple in Java. It was made during the Yeah, sorry. We made it around the 8th century in Java. And then the second one is Labuan Bajo. It's very, very beautiful island. It's I think it has it has few islands surrounding the Labuan Bajo. And then the number 3 is Lake Toba. It's in Sumatra Island. And then the number 4th is Mandalika. It actually, we had a MotoGP event in 2022 in Mandalika. And the number 5 is Likupang. It's famous for its beaches. Now, let's move to the Indonesian government scholarships. We offered 3 scholarships for studying in Indonesia. But for this session, I am only focusing on one scholarship, which is named Darmasiswa. It is from the Ministry of Culture. It is only for learning Indonesian language and culture for 1 year. We have 2 others named the Developing Countries Scholarship. It is also from the Ministry of Culture and Education. It is for from bachelor's degree until the postgrad or PhD degrees. And then the second one is the Indonesian Arts and Culture Scholarship. It is from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But for this year, the KNB or the Developing Countries Scholarship, it's the registration is already closed. So what we are opening now is the Darmasiswa Scholarship. Maybe if you want to pursue your study in Indonesia, you can check again next year from January. Now we move to the Darmasiswa Scholarship. It was started in 1974. Organized by the Ministry of Education and Culture with cooperation with Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Indonesian embassies abroad. We have more than 126 countries participating in this scholarship. And from Mexico, we have, I think it's more than 123 students who have studied in Indonesia through Darmasiswa program. It is a non-degree scholarship, so you only learn for 1 year to learn Indonesian language or traditional arts or culinary and culture. For this year, we opened to 350 students from all over the country, including from Mexico. You can choose from 68 Indonesian higher education institutions all over Indonesia. We have the list of the universities that you can check on the website. So the qualifications for this scholarship is, one, that you have to be a foreign national and you have to complete the secondary education or high school here. So if you're university students, then you are eligible for this scholarship. And the minimum age is 18 years old, but not older than 27. Of course, you have to be able to communicate in English. We need your proven certificate of IELTS or TOEFL or TOEIC. And you must have a good health proven by a medical certificate. You have a basic knowledge on what you're you want to learn in Indonesia. And of course, you have a strong interest to learn language. I think you all have this qualification. And you are not registered as Darmasiswa alumni and not currently studying or working in Indonesia. So for the coverage of scholarship, you will have a stipend of around 3,200 Mexican pesos, and book allowance once, and settlement allowance when you have arrived in Indonesia. You will also covered by local health insurance. And the host university will arrange for the student's permit, and you can seek assistance from the university on finding a house or room rent. So if you are interested in applying for this scholarship, you need to submit the required documents through online. First, it's your CV and then medical certificate, your last high school diploma, and passport. You need to have a valid passport at least 2 years from the registration, and then the language certificate if you have any. You need to have at least TOEFL or TOEIC or IELTS certificate, and any other certificates that you may have. Also, recommendation letter from your university in English with a letterhead and signature. And then you need to make an essay, maximum 500 words, mentioning why do you want to study in Indonesia. And then you also have to submit a video for a maximum 2 minutes, telling what is your motivation in joining this program. For the application procedure, you may look into this website, apply.darmasiswa.kemdikbud.go.id, and then choose the Indonesian Embassy in Mexico to submit your documents. The application guide is in this link. If you want to, you can take note on this link. So the program schedule. The online registration will be closed on the by 7th of April. So it's less than a month from now. After that, there will be an interview and administrative check at the embassy from 8th April until 21st of April. So once you have submitted all your documentations and submit through online, we will check from Indonesian Embassy, will check your registration, and we will inform you when it will be the schedule for your interview. After that, we will send the result of our interview to the Ministry of Education in Indonesia, and the universities in Indonesia will also check your registration. And the announcement of the result will be on the 12th of May. And then the final result will be on the 31st of May. And you will have a pre-departure briefing at the Indonesian Embassy until August, and orientation in Jakarta when you have landed in Indonesia at the end of August for the commencement of the program in September. So for further information, you can check this website. Also, you can contact us in the Indonesian Embassy in Mexico City. I think that's all for now. if you have any question, please just ask us. Thank you.
Si tendrán algunas preguntas, pues se pueden preguntar a la señorita Angreini en español o en inglés. Dudas, preguntas. También les puedo dar mi contexto porque si soy mexicano e indonesio, como si ustedes tienen como preguntas sobre Indonesia o cómo pueden vivir allá o ser estudiante, les puedo dar como un tips o trucos.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I noticed it's a 1-year program, and what I got a bit confused is if it's part of a major or if it's only focused on learning the language.
It only focuses on learning language or culture. So, in the application guideline, there's a table on the options for university and what you want to learn. So you can see there. As I mentioned again before, it's only 1-year program and it's non-degree. So it's only for learning Indonesian or arts.
¿En inglés o en español? So to add like all of the majors in the scholarship, like the culture, including like, for example, languages, music. So you also, there's like options. They're like learning traditional instruments or dance or culinary. Because there's some like universities, because on the website you will see like there's like a list of universities, and for example, the university Universidad A solo tiene como de idioma o de gastronomía, como depende de cuál universidad elige.
Okay, okay. I might have another question, but
Sure.
okay. So a bit on this side of Indonesia, I know it's like huge. It's got so many islands. Are there trips to get to know other places, or it's just going to be in Jakarta?
So if you choose university outside Jakarta, then you will be in that area for sure.
But back again, like for example, the program, when you accepted in Darmasiswa scholarship, first you will have a session in Jakarta, like
Briefing?
briefing, like all of, for example, if we have a context in Mexico, so like foreign students, like for this CONACYT program, so they will have like the briefing in Mexico City, but after that they will send you to a direct like San Luis Potosi, Oaxaca, Merida. It's like all of the, for many countries, they will gather in Jakarta, and then they will have like a session of education, like adapting, like culture shock, blah blah blah, and then they will send you to the respective cities, like for example in Jakarta or in Bali or in Balikpapan and something like that. But like, what do you mean like a trip? It depends on, back again to the university program. Maybe one of my colleagues that receive Darmasiswa, like some of university, they have like a trip to another cities, or like when you're like in the Jakarta, you met other people from, for example, Guatemala, Colombia, UK, and you make new friends, and then you make a plan like to have a trip, something like that. I mean, it depends on the flow. Okay.
One last question.
Hi, can you tell us your experience, your personal experience? I just want to know what about maybe the schedule or the environment, or where do you develop the university too?
Again, please. O en español si quieres.
Sí, como tu experiencia, ¿en qué universidad hiciste o los horarios, las clases, cómo eran?
Ok, pues en mi caso yo no tuve la beca de Darmasiswa, más bien como estudié allá, pues por mi cuenta, pero les voy a dar como una experiencia de ser como, pues es como mi papá es mexicano, mi mamá Indonesia, es que tengo como los puntos de perspectiva diferente, por ejemplo, cuando estudié en Indonesia, mi universidad, los horarios depende de, pues del programa, más bien como que desde las 9 hasta las 5 o a las 4, depende de tu clase. Puede ser menos, puede ser más, pero más o menos como que creo que cuando estudias como arte y idioma está más fluido, depende de del programa. ¿Y qué más, tus preguntas? La universidad fue en Bandung. Es una ciudad tipo como Guadalajara, como la segunda ciudad más grande de Indonesia. Y de hecho, allá en Bandung tiene muchos estudiantes, porque tienen muchas universidades. De hecho, hay creo que tres universidades de Darmasiswa que es como, hay una universidad en Bandung que se llama Instituto de Arte Bandung, y allá puedes estudiar danzas, y dos universidades más solo para estudiar idiomas, que se llama Instituto de Teknologi Bandung y Universitas Katolik Parahyangan. Es una universidad privada y también pública.
Hi. I see you. I see you presented the monthly living allowance that is equivalent to 3,200 pesos. I think is I don't know how costly is the living in Indonesia.
Kalau untuk sandaran Meksiko itu nggak cukup, aku aja belanja apa despensa 2.000 peso. Ya kalau di sini emang mahal kan, jadi kalau harus dikasih konteks kalau Indonesia makan murah. Es que, pero sí, lo que pasa como en Indonesia el costo de vida es más barato que acá. Por ejemplo, la Ciudad de México para mí es, por la inflación, es muchísimo caro, como 2,000 pesos solo puede comprar una despensa nada más para aguantar una semana. Pero allá depende de la ciudad. Por ejemplo, Yakarta es como Ciudad de México, es ciudad grande, también carísimo, y pues ya es como caro, pues para mí. Pero si estudias, por ejemplo, en la ciudad como Bandung, Malang, Surabaya tal vez es como tipo Monterrey, es como un poco caro. Más ciudades pequeñas para estudiantes como Bandung, Malang, Bogor, Makassar, o ciudades más como afuera de la isla de Java, el costo de vida es muy, muy barato. Por ejemplo, un plato pues, de comida cuesta 20 pesos, pero es un montón de comida, como de arroz, vegetales y todo. Es en una fonda para vivir. Pues puedes sobrevivir como tal vez como 60 pesos, ahí se puede comer bien, porque es muy barato. Por ejemplo, la isla de Bali es como Riviera Maya, la comida también es barato, pero depende dónde, pero es un restaurante fifí, pues es como, gasta como 200 pesos. Pero si fuera una fonda de estudiantes o fonda normal, que se llama warung nasi, es como una fonda para vender comida, como comida de guisado, 30 pesos, 50 pesos, ya. Es como bastante comida para... Es como la comida aquí en México como solo tacos, ¿no? Como a veces como tlacoyo. Pero en Indonesia hay un montón de variedades de comida, por eso, no sé, ya has visto como comida indonesia antes, como es arroz, luego fideo, luego mucho carbohidratos, vegetales, frituras, es como bandeja paisa, ubicas de la comida colombiana, algo así, es muy grande, pero solo 40 pesos, 30 pesos, a lo máximo, lo más caro, 50 o 60, no alcanza hasta 100 pesos para sobrevivir. Entonces, como para el costo de vida que le dieron, le van a dar, es suficiente para como 3,000 pesos para un mes. Pero también depende de tu estilo de vida.
Ah, sí, a lo que preguntabas, ¿qué tan rígido es esa beca como para, no, pues comprar alguna otra cosa, tal vez como mencionaste, tal vez un día comprar algo que es más caro o siempre es comer en lo más baratito, por así decirlo?
Mm, Pues al final es como, depende de, de la persona. Si lo que pasa como solo damos como esa cantidad de dinero para un mes, si usas menos o más, pues va a ser es como para manejar bien como su administración de dinero. Ajá. Es como igual como si fuera foráneo, o sea, que es estudiar en la Ciudad de México. Si quieres, si puede, como quieren ahorrar la mitad para su viaje o algo así. Lo que pasa es como hay muchos pues, amigos míos como de México, sí pueden sobrevivir con ese dinero, a menos que no viven en Yakarta. Pues depende también de la ciudad. Creo que cuando estuvieran en Yakarta le van a dar un poco más dinero porque ese es como el general por toda la Indonesia. Pero creo que en ciudades grandes, creo que el costo va a ser diferente por el costo de vida que después de la pandemia que se subió un poco. Entonces, como back again, depends on the person, how to manage the money.
Otra pregunta, entonces, ¿este mantenimiento o esta beca
Sí,
incluida también en la vivienda?
sí, el hospedaje también. Es que el hospedaje es aparte del mensual.
Ah,
Ajá. Sí, porque pues 2,000 pesos como
entonces
no
sí es,
alcanza para...
entonces sí es solamente comida y básicamente eso, pues creo que
Ajá.
sí, me parece que está
Por
bien.
ejemplo, tengo una amiga, cuando vivió allá por la beca, ella escogió un como tipo depa más caro, pero lo que pasó como que pues lo usa el dinero, pero lo agrega de su cuenta. Más bien, depende de, pues al final depende de ustedes cómo va a manejar, pero el gobierno seguro te van a dar esa cantidad de dinero. Pero lo que pasa por la vivienda, la mayoría de la universidad te va a ayudar para buscar el hospedaje más cerca de la escuela.
Ah, muy bien. Muchas gracias.
Um, Hello again. So I was thinking about how if a foreign student gets sick in there, normally what's the procedure?
So as I mentioned before, there will be health insurance, local health insurance. So I think what you must do when you're sick is to inform the school, to inform your professor or anyone from administration who are dealing with foreign students, and I'm sure they will help you with the hospitalization or anything that you need. Yeah.
And one last question. Once you finish the language courses, is there possible to get a certification?
Yeah.
Sure. Yes.
And mostly is the bonus info. Mostly of the Darmasiswa alumni, some of them, they after that, like many years, they work at the embassy. Because for us, it's like easier to hire like people who already have experience in Indonesia, also know at least the language, plus you already take the opportunity from the embassy itself, so it's also the bonus. Also, most of the scholarships alumni, they also, ¿cómo se dice? Se dedican su vida aquí en México para Indonesia. Por ejemplo, hay una empresaria de tempe que se llama Luisa. No sé si ubican a tempe, es un condimento indonés, tipo fermentado de soya. Y ella aprendió en Indonesia y ahora sí es una empresaria para hacer tempeh aquí en México. Es como tipo carne para vegetariano de soya. Entonces, como esa beca sí, de verdad, como tiene mucho beneficiario, también mucha ventaja para los alumnos.
Great, thank you. Uno de los requisitos mencionaba que necesitabas experiencia previa en la disciplina a la que vas a aplicar. ¿Cómo se demuestra dicha experiencia?
Previous experience tadi yang di-mention itu apa, Bu? Sebelum
Yang
satu requirement satu yang harus dipunyai adalah ¿cuál requisito? Como la experiencia de cuál, perdón?
Sí, mencionaba que necesitabas experiencia o antecedentes en la disciplina a la que ibas a aplicar.
Like at least they need to have experience like the requirements.
Which one is it?
No.
Hmm?
After.
No.
El punto 6.
Please. It means having basic knowledge of, for example, if you want to learn dance, at least you have a basic knowledge on how to dance. Or
Entonces, no se necesitan así como certificados o cierta cantidad de años. Ok, ok. Sí, sería todo.
Por ejemplo, si hay como en esta beca también tiene opción de aprender culinaria como gastronomía. Pues, por ejemplo, si ustedes como estudian aquí como idiomas, pero tienen talento de cocina, pues sí se puede. Pero si no, pues, ¿para qué?
Are there some causes of termination or for the cancellation of the scholarship?
Ada kalau misalnya mereka dapat terima, mereka reject cancel, itu ada konsekuensinya.
here, actually, if if you're accepted, and we will ask you for attendance confirmation. So around 2 weeks, we will wait for your confirmation, whether you want to go or you want to cancel it.
Or you mean like you already, for example, you already accepted and you already confirmed and you just need to go and you cancel? Is it what you mean?
Like during the scholarship,
Okay.
maybe
They're in Indonesia. And then suddenly you need to come back and you need to cancel.
Yes, no, like during the scholarship, while you're in classes and things like that, maybe if you stop going to the course, maybe, or I don't know.
Oh, so the example is you're already in Indonesia and also you're already studying there, but suddenly you want to stop?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it depends on the institutions that you're going to. So you need to talk with them if there's any consequences. Or
Pernah ada satu itu dan cancel dan itu di Indonesia karena pandemi. Tapi ya itu nggak bisa balik kalau bisa. Like for example, I think I managed one back then during the pandemic because there's one like who stopped because like suddenly there's like pandemic. He asked us if he can cancel or something like that to go back to Mexico. But the thing is, when it's already there, it's not part of the embassy. Mostly you need to talk to the university because when you're in Indonesia, is the responsible of the Ministry of Education and Culture and also the respective university. But mostly, I think there will be some like consequences, like penalty. Like if you, for example, the coverage, they will like cut the monthly allowance and also the for example, you Well, back then, well, few years ago, the flight is still covered by the government. Where I know it's only like without the flight and also only the allowance. But back then, like if you the person cancel it, they will not. They will also cancel the flight to go back to Mexico. Also for the consequences, I think like blacklist from the list if you want to apply for another scholarship from the Ministry of Education of Indonesia. I think that's the most consequence if you cancel it during the time. But it also depends on the context because somehow like during that pandemic, it's understandable like the situation, but somehow it's like some personal reason that is from the part of the university doesn't make sense to them. I think also it depends on the negotiation back then to the university again, also to your personal situation.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to thank you. Thank you very much, you two that are here and taking your time and so on to get in contact with their students. That's really lovely. And please also thank your embassy. And I'm sorry I had to arrive a little bit late, but I didn't hear about the airplane because I was going to ask, of course, students are interested if it's included, but as you just mentioned, it's not included. I understood.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the airplane is not included. Well, back then, few years ago, it was included, but I think the government changed the regulation. It's only included now the insurance, also the allowance, the hospedaje there in Indonesia.
Yeah, so they're very good.
Yeah.
Once you get there, it's great. Yeah. And well, another thing, I'm a linguist. I would like, if it's possible, and they don't have any more questions, you to tell us a little bit about all the languages you have in Indonesia, because I know that with so many islands and so on, you have a lot of cultures really there.
Yeah.
And how much, if our students go there also, how much would they get in touch with all these new cultures? Of course, I think it's part of the program because it's a lovely program, 1 complete year for living there and have experiences and so on. Yeah. If there are no more questions, thank you.
Yeah, before that, I was gonna ask about it's 1 year, and also you said we're gonna have, if we got us accepted, we're gonna have a certification. What about the level of Indonesian? Like, till what level we get? Like maybe A2, or what's the level we? Or it depends on the person. It doesn't depend on the program itself.
I have to say it depends. Language learning will depend on each person. I think you all are learning language here.
Yeah.
Is it?
I
Yeah.
think you guys is more easy to learn fast. I think minimum when you come back to Mexico, you'll have like B, like between level kedua.
But at least I'm sure Indonesian language is easy. It's very simple. So if you learn it in 1 year or even less than 1 year, I'm sure you'll be able to communicate, actively communicate, like, yeah, in everyday life. I think you will be able to use the Indonesian language proficiently.
For example, I have a friend back then who has this scholarship, but she's studying politics, international relations. For 1 year, she took a language, this kind of language major. Well, it took a while for her to learn because she's not learning the language. So that's why, like, I think for you, if you already learn the language, I mean, your brain is already trained to learn the language fast. Because for her, she doesn't study language. So, well, for 1 year, she understand like the context, but it's hard for her to speak, like to express, but she understand what we say in Indonesian. But I think for the person who studied languages, I think it will be at least basic minimum, not A, but like B, because you already, I mean, trained to learn language that fast than the others. I think it's also that advantage for you if you learn, if you choose the language majors in the scholarship.
So maybe back to your question. Tadi nanya apa?
Pesawat.
Bukan, setelah itu. Can you, sorry, can you repeat the last question?
Yeah, so that what we know about Indonesia, because it's a very, very far country for us, how many languages are there in the original languages? And what is the official language, and how do they, I don't know, contextualize? So they interact, or there's only one language that everybody speaks, and
Yeah.
only in very small towns, the other ones, or how?
Thank you. So the official language is Bahasa Indonesia. It's the Indonesian language. It's close to Malaysian language, so similar. But again, we have so many ethnic groups, so we have a lot of dialects. I cannot say the number of the dialects, but for example, if you're living in Jakarta, the capital city, I think you only speak Indonesian language, the formal Indonesian language. But if you go to other places, for example, if you go to West Java, then eventually you will also learn the West Javan language or dialects.
Like for example, in here in Mexico, we have also a difference of accents, also vocabularies. For example, in Indonesia, one of like the uniqueness of Indonesian, they like speak minimum like 2 languages. But like in Jakarta, the capital, they speak like the national language most oftenly, like Indonesian language. But for example, in Bali, in Central Java or like West Java, outside of the national language, they have their own languages because every province, every state, they have their own languages. For example, in West Java, they have Sundanese. In Bali, they have Balinese. In Borneo, they have Malay and Dayak. So when, like in conversation, when they speak Indonesian, you still can have different accent and also vocabularies because they mix. For example, like Spanish from Merida, like Yucatan, because they mix with the Mayan phrases, something like that. Or like in here, the Chilangos speak like they say the natural Spanish in Mexico. But like, for example, if you go to the north, to Monterrey, also to Merida, to Oaxaca, they have different kind of Spanish. Like they absorb more, like for example, in Oaxaca, like Zapotec words, or like in Monterrey, like the northern vocabularies, something like that. But like mostly that you will learn in the scholarship, like the common, like if you will learn grammar Spanish, because it's the same. When foreign people study Spanish, it will be like in Mexico, it will not be the same as you speak in conversation. But well, we understand what I mean, the basic Indonesian, like because it's like used in common in general in many places. So yeah.
Excuse me, and how much is English spoken there? Because for example, foreigners that arrive here in Mexico, officially everybody speaks English because it's official in secondary school, in high school, from high school on. But they arrive here and they say, no, not really. Most of them don't speak English, don't understand here in Mexico. What is the situation there? If a person speaks English, could they just survive very well, of course, while they learn Indonesian language, or not? English is refused, or what is the situation in general?
Menurut aku Indonesia lebih ngerti bahasa Inggris daripada di Indonesia
Okay.
bisa ngejawab daripada.
So in many big cities, I think most people at least understand English. So yeah, but in Jakarta, I think most speak English, and in other big cities like in Bandung or Jogja or Bali, I think they understand when you speak English.
Mostly young people, like
Yeah.
your colleagues, like they're in the university. even though they don't speak, but they understand. They just like shy to express how to express. Even though like people like in the streets, like older, they understand English, but they just don't can't speak it. For me, to be honest, in Indonesia, they understand more English compared in Mexico because they get used to receiving more English media, like from the movie, from the music, so they get used to it compared with here. Because in here, if you go to another country like Colombia, or like we get used to with Spanish, even though when we go to the United States, there's still like Latinos that speak Spanish. So I think in Indonesia is more easy to speak in English, like to talk, even though they don't speak, but at least they understand. Any more questions? Entonces, de parte de nosotros, si ustedes ya no tienen más dudas o preguntas, pues sería todo en nuestra presentación. Por cualquier cosa, voy a encargar de parte de la beca para manejar como si ustedes tienen todavía dudas, pueden enviar a correo, o también no sé si pueden guardar mi número si gustan, por cualquier cosa, por la beca, porque también va a ser como la convocatoria el próximo mes. Entonces, como por si acaso tienen dudas o algo así, mándame un mensaje o envíeme un correo a pueden escribir. Sí, a este correo. O también tenemos redes sociales. Por favor, nos siguen en Indonesia in MX por nuestro Instagram. O mande un DM, pregunta sobre Darmasiswa y todo. O envía al correo a sociocultural.mx@kemlu.go.id o a mejor que a porque yo voy a responder directamente a kbrimex.sos.bud@gmail.com. O pues si envío un correo allá, le mando mi número para que sea más fácil para preguntar más cosas a mi número personal directamente. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Ya, udah aja foto ini orang-orang.